Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Happy, Healthy, and Successful. I am Maria Martinez. And in this summit, we've invited teachers, way showers, influencers, masters from around the world to share their knowledge, tools, expertise with you, to inspire you, and to support you in taking that next right action for you in whatever is next for you. And today we have Zorina Dimitrova. How are you, Zorina? It's so happy to, it's so nice to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Maria. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be talking to your audience. I'm really privileged. My story is interesting and not, depending on how you look at it and what you expect to hear. But on the surface, I'm a quite regular person. You wouldn't see a lot, but I have a very deep subconscious life. One of the programs that I teach people is to make use of their subconscious life and create everything that appears as a flat lake on the outside. My story is twofold. I have twofold is again diminishing it, but I moved my life in two directions. When I was about 20, I started studying business and international management in the Netherlands. I'm originally Bulgarian. So I moved to the Netherlands to study business. And I had a very profound experience at that time in which I got an energy cleansing. So I had a series of negative experiences and of accidents. And my mom put me in touch with an energy clearer, and he cleansed my energy. And for a period of 7 days, I started seeing things around me. I started seeing energies. I started feeling, understanding, perceiving, knowing what's going on and who's trying to influence me and so on. I would recognize what kind of an energy a certain type of energy is. So this energy clearer told me in 7 days, your life will change. I didn't believe him at first, but that's exactly what happened. It sounds like a miracle story. And at that time, I was way too scared that anybody I knew would think I was a wacko. So I didn't share it with anyone. But I was actually seeing these energies in daytime while I was going to university. So indeed, in 7 days, my life changed. I moved to another city. I still continued to go to the same university, but my relationship changed. I moved to another city. And from this point on, I started digging into my spiritual life. What was this that I was experiencing? I was looking for an explanation. And I started exploring all kinds of modalities, from a deep holotropic breathing to discover things from my past life. One of the first things that I learned was the Silva method that was recommended to me by my Reiki master. So I really went all the way. So I spread myself to all the alternative energy healing and consciousness modalities that I could get a grip on. And so at the same time, though, I was already getting into my corporate job. So I was working in telecommunications, in finance. Then I went and did an MBA. And I can tell you, I had a disparity at that time, whether my understanding of the world and perception of the world doesn't have a serious clash with what I'm doing on the surface, like pursuing business. And I did have a clash at that time, an internal thing, but I am a very driven person. I thought, okay, I'll have to deal with it somehow. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to pursue my business career as well. So I did that. Then I moved on again to corporate. I went into strategy, worked with executives. And at the same time, in order for me to get each of these jobs and to create business models and everything I was creating along this path, I was actually using these techniques that I had been learning all along. I was using Silva method for manifestation. I was using NLP for public speaking. I was using everything that all the tools that I knew at the time and that I found handy to make my way forward. And then at some point, it's a long story, a different story, but I started my business. The first one is Heal and Learn. It's a platform for personal development and for trainings and putting you in touch with the right coach, with the right trainer. And so I wanted to bring all of these things that I've learned, experts in these things on one platform where people can have access to them. And that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. And this is one of the businesses, where I actually have a few courses. I started with my first ever course that I offered was called Start a Business with Meaning. And I started this in order to integrate first in my mind what I was doing, how this spiritual aspect actually fit my business and direction as well. And from this point on, actually, I understood what people that were joining the platform were really interested in. And the majority of them were less interested in the business aspect than they were interested in the consciousness aspect of how to set up your mind to reach this level of success mindset. It's the commercial term success mindset, but it is in a way mind programming. And it's not only mind programming, it's emotional programming. It's understanding of the field. It's basically an overall holistic grasp of what you're doing, how this is impacting you, others, your goals, your family, everything around you. Oh my God, this was a long introduction, but more or less, this is what I'm doing.
So let's get into consciousness and mindset. This summit is intended to share practices and processes and to help whoever's listening or participants to look at for themselves what is possible for me and what is the next step for me, and take that guided action. Let's talk about that process of mindset, consciousness, and the relationship with just understanding where you are and understanding what's possible for you, and then taking that leap and closing that gap and becoming very intentional and committed to creating the next best version of yourself or your life or your career, whatever that may be.
It's a very large question. And to begin, I would start with the big vision of your life, because most people have very short-term goals or very limited goals in terms of their impact. So when we talk about manifestation, and this is how most people find me on the Heal and Learn channel, is through manifestation. It's because this market is so huge and it gives people a convoluted idea of what a fulfilled life is. Because people want to manifest 10K, 20K, a million, 10 million. I've encountered a lot of people at the beginning, before they found out what I was about, that say, I want to manifest this. And I can tell you, with the techniques that I am teaching people, some of them have manifested promotions and money the next day. But this is not the standard. Why? In order for somebody to reach a point where they can manifest the next day, they must have walked a path of discovery, of attunement, of a moment where they just need a little click that lets them get presented with the manifestation object. For the majority of people, to build a manifestation outcome, they need to do a lot of things. First of all, they have to understand what the impact is on all areas of their lives. So I usually tell people, imagine your ideal day. What would you do if you had this thing? Let's say you win $1 million. What would your day look like? Would you have a different relationship? Would you have a different daily schedule? What would you eat? What would you do? And the fastest way to attune yourself to this thing without any techniques is to start doing exactly what you would do if you had this thing. So let's say it's about money. What is the thing that you would do? It's not so much about what you would have, because lots of people say, I would have this, I would have that. But think about the activities that you would do, and you would find out that most people wouldn't change their activities. The majority of the activities would stay the same. So they would still want to spend time with their friends and family. They would still want to enjoy nature. They would still want to enjoy the simple things. As a matter of fact, their activities don't change. It's just the internal state of fulfillment, or of I have it. I have the thing. So the first thing is actually imagine your day and ask the why question. Like Simon Sinek, start with the why. I also ask people, start with the why, but not the it is the motivation of that drives everything. You need motivation to manifest anything. The question is, why do you want this thing? Do you want it because you want to fill a gap, because you feel unappreciated, because you want more attention, because of whatever reason, or do you want to give? You have to turn around this wanting from lack to fulfillment. So this means you're abundant, you're overflowing, you want to give your gifts. So the why, you have to turn it around in such a way that you're able to materialize the gifts that you come with. So this is the first thing. Then, of course, there are techniques in which you access your subconscious mind directly. And this is a prerequisite for manifestation, because otherwise it takes long. Of course, you can do without the techniques on a daily basis if you think of these things consciously, because meditation on its own is contemplation. It means contemplating about something. It's not necessarily going deep on altered state of mind, alpha, theta, delta level brainwaves. Meditation means contemplating. So you can also use your facet of contemplation to manifest. But it's much easier if you can contemplate and dream and also include your heart's power, your magnetic power, because this is how you record in the field, with your heart. If you include this in your contemplation, it works much faster. And there's even a third additional booster to this manifestation. It is if you do it in a group and if you work on other people's manifestation desires, because you have the well-meaning and the blessing that comes from the heart for the other people's goals. It works both ways. So you're opening up a channel to receive. You're not only giving them, but even if you are not verbally expressing what you want, but you keep it in the back of your mind, even if you have not expressed it for the other people, the field knows what you want. So if you're working on solving other people's problems and working on executing their desires, it's coming back to you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because, first of all, if we're in the awareness of manifestation, we realize that we're actually manifesting every single day, but we're manifesting unconsciously. We're not manifesting intentionally. We're just going with it, and our thoughts or behaviors and our actions are manifesting current reality. So we know that we're master manifestors. And if we start moving into the awareness, I am a master manifester, and everything I've created so far, or everything that's showing up in my life I've created, then what can I create from this point forward? And then moving into that intentionality of creating and expanding that, the gift of having, to others benefiting from it will amplify just what you described. So I this is something that I teach as well, and it's very powerful, because when you say in the highest good of all, then you're inviting others to also step into that. And to move away from lack into abundance is giving, right? It's creating a space for others to live into their possibility, live into what is possible for them, and to exercise that power of creation as well. This is a beautiful message to remember, that we are creating, they're creating in every moment. And the clearer we are about what we want, and the clearer we are about how it's going to benefit not just us, but everybody around us, then that amplifies our desires. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's talk about the field of possibility, or the field of consciousness, the field of creation. What are some of the practices or tools that you use to accelerate the manifestation process?
So I base my techniques on two main modes of interacting with the field. One of them is based on the Silva method, and I know that probably most of your listeners have heard about the Silva method, but I've taken it a step further. So the Silva method implies that when you're in alpha state, which is the state of being, they call it alpha-centered, where you have access to both the left and the right hemispheres of the brain simultaneously. This is when you have the most creative power, because you're logically able to interact and get access to the field of subconsciousness that is perceived through the right hemisphere of the brain. So the Silva method is quite technical in its nature, and it mostly talks about the brain. While the field is definitely, as we all know, not only about the brain, it's about our entire being. We have energy that we interact with that comes from each of our chakras. And this is the other technique that I am teaching, which stems from a technique developed in the 80s by a governmental agency in Russia. Now, I'm not Russian, but I was very fortunate to get a grip of these books, which are not available anymore. And in this governmental agency, they were studying methods of influence to other people. And while most people perceive influence as something negative, something done for personal benefit, the course that I'm teaching, which is called Create Success, is actually self-reflecting. So you're ramping up your own energy in order to fulfill your worthwhile goals. So everything that you're doing is done with the highest levels of ethical standards. We're not doing anything that is forcefully manipulating people and so on. So this technique actually uses the energy that comes from each of the chakras, and you use your bodily sensations, and there are certain loops where you can control these energies to interact with other people. In essence, both methods work, both the Silva method that I have further developed to include heart energy, to infuse it with as much emotion as possible. And this method, which is originally called DEIR, it's the abbreviation in Russian. I don't even know what it stands for. It's translated, it is further energy information development, but I don't know what it stands for originally in Russian. So I use actually for fast manifestation a combination of both. I ask people to both use the projection of the mind from the Silva technique and the timelines used in the Silva, because with the Silva method, there's a certain location in your perceived world that corresponds to the future, a certain perception that corresponds to the present, and a certain perception to the past. So you can influence all of these. You can influence the past, for example, if you need to clear trauma and stuff like that. And the future, of course, is used for manifestation. It can be used for fixing relationships and so on. Now, this other method, the ear, I plug in specifically some techniques that create a certain isolation, like a bubble, that allows what you're manifesting to have its own entity, like to live as an energetic entity on its own. You're not doing magic, of course, but it has a life of its own. And very often with these manifestation techniques, that is actually not very common in the currently practiced techniques in the West. It is not very common that you use egregores and the energy of certain morphological fields to feed your goal. This is exactly what the aspect of this other methodology, the Russian one, that I'm using and applying, and this works very well. It's called manifestation with egregores. Maria, it's a very wide field of study, and one doesn't need to know techniques and to do all of these things to manifest. This is what I always like to tell people. Don't focus too much on the techniques or on what exactly you're supposed to do or the step-by-step processes, because this is secondary. The number one important thing is your feeling inside, the intention that you have. The intention works miracles, and your well-meaning for others. Actually, whether you want to use your innate skills to contribute to something or not. If you do that alone, you have a high chance of making it happen, whatever you've decided to do, no matter if you're using techniques, no matter if you're going and accessing your subconscious mind or not. It's all about the purity of your intention and how much you want to execute your God-given skills.
Very good. Do you have a small practice or a small process that you can share with the audience so they can get a feel of either one or the other method or your combination?
For the Silva method, or my method is the extended method. Is called the Heal and Learn method, named after my platform, because as I said, I've developed the Silva method further. But it is a practice over a longer period of time. But if you want to get a feel of it, I would recommend you to look for alpha beat, theta beat, and listen for 5 minutes. And the other fast way to learn to go in alpha and to access your subconscious mind is to actually roll your eyes up towards your eyebrows as if you're going in REM sleep. If there are viewers on your podcast, I don't know if your podcast is viewed, but if there are viewers, it would look something like this. You close your eyelids and then your eyes are left looking towards your eyebrows. At the same time, you take deep breaths and you count from 5 to 1. With each taking of a deep breath, you visualize the number in front of you and your eyes are still rolled up. So while you're doing that, so you count from 5 to 1, and then what you're doing is you're recalling very briefly a memory of yours where you felt completely at ease, at peace, joyous. It has to be a memory, not a made-up thing, something that you've lived through, so that you can realistically recall the feeling and the sensations. So your task there is to submerge yourself in this memory and explore all the sensations, how your skin felt, what you smelled, what you heard, all the senses, and then finally focus on the exact emotion that you felt back then. So there are a few caveats about this technique of recalling and indulging in this memory, because most people say, I don't have a memory where I felt so good. There was always something. And the trick there is to actually choose 2-3 seconds and replay them. So these can be different memories. So you can choose 2-3 seconds from a memory where you were alone at the beach, 2-3 seconds where you were alone at a mountain or somewhere where you had a pleasurable exercise experience, preferably when you were on your own. Because as I always say, when you choose to be with company in your memory, it will always lead you to a moment of disappointment. Because every person disappoints you in your life at least once. So it will always reach, it's natural for the mind to always reach for the rotten apple. So that's why rather stick to a memory where you were on your own. And so while you're replaying this and feeling it with your sensations and with your emotions, just sit in bliss and recall and expand this feeling. Imagine as if it's an egg and it wraps around your body. So you're all covered in this sensation and bliss, and stay in this bliss for 5-10 minutes, ideally for at least 12 minutes, because this is one cycle of alpha level. And so stay for 12 minutes, and towards the end, just see yourself finishing your goal. So having accomplished your goal. This is the very, very brief process that I can share at the moment. Otherwise, it usually takes longer. It takes your mind some time to get accustomed to this level. But that's the fastest way to go in alpha.
Beautiful, beautiful. Zorina, anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Anything else? Yes, I have quite a few guests on my Heal and Learn channel, and one of my recent guests mentioned that there's a very special period coming up on the 14th or 15th of January, depending on where you are in the world. It is the end of a period called Kali Yuga, and it's considered to be the Iron Age or the Dark Ages of humanity. So we are approaching the end of this Kali Yuga on the 14th of January. There's going to be a short period of time. He mentioned 6 hours, but I think I read it's 12 hours. In any case, it's a very short period called the Muhurta, where there's a very strong alignment between the energies of the Earth and the center of the galaxy. It's a great moment to set your intentions and to communicate them to the field. I call it the field, you may call it God, the divine, whatever your belief system is. But this period, it falls exactly on the 15th of January. It starts at 12 a.m. ICT, which is time in Thailand. So use this time for manifestation. You can, of course, use it on your own, write your achieved goals, write them down as if they have already happened. But what you can also do is you can join my workshop, which I'm going to do exactly in this time period. I have a workshop called Clear Vision and Goal Manifestation 2024, where I'm going to be using these techniques that I've partially shared with you now, or just the brief version of them. And we are going to apply them to clarify a vision and goals that are aligned to your soul's desire, soul's purpose, and not imposed by society and by mind control. So we're going to find these goals that resonate with you and make the first step, set the first step using these techniques for the manifestation at the very right time that, according to Dr. G, that is the person who told me about this, Grant Crewley is his name. It happens once in a lifetime, this Mahurta event. It will never happen in our lifetimes again. And it's coming up in 10 days.
Beautiful, beautiful. I've actually heard it that we're moving into the golden ages, leaving the dark ages. And then this is a time of great opportunity. It's a time for great manifestation, a transfer of wealth as well, moving into abundance and prosperity. So this is definitely the time for everybody to get clear, to step into what they truly want and desire, get a heart center, become very intentional, and embrace that new beingness and that new practice of having it. Beautiful. Thank you, Zorina. If they wanted to connect with you, where would they find you?
Thank you very much, first of all, Maria, for the opportunity. Thank you for the platform to allow me to share this. The people can find me at healandlearn.com, and this is spelled heal, the letter N, not end, just the letter N, learn.com. And I also have presence on all social media under the same name, Heal and Learn.
Beautiful. It's my pleasure. And I look forward to hearing more about you and your success and your impact in the world. And thank you, everyone, for being with us and listening and being inspired to take action. This is your time. Take it. It's time for you to claim it. It's time for you to live into it. Beautiful. Thank you again. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.